Hi, in this video I'm going to talk about role of pRB, protein RB, and RB stands for retinoblastoma in cell cycle control. So role of pRB in a cell cycle control. So we need to understand why pRB is important and why we should study about pRB and its role in cell cycle control. So in normal cell, pRB prevents the cell cycle progression until and unless it's phosphorylated by cyclin D and CDK4. So in normal cases, pRB prevents cell cycle progression. So pRB could be thought as a tumor suppressor because pRB actually prevents the cell cycle progression. So it prevents unpredicted growth or uncontrolled growth. So pRB is good in this sense, and it's a tumor suppressor protein. So pRB is actually function like, so pRB usually inhibits E2F. And what is E2F? E2F is essential protein which actually helps in the further stages of the cell cycle control, and it's actually helped to transcribe other target proteins which are necessary for S phase of the cell cycle. So pRB actually uh, inhibits E2F by binding with E2F, and when in the late G1 phase, pRB would be phosphorylated by a complex of cyclin D and CDK4 or 6, and now the phosphorylated pRB would no longer hold E2F, and E2F is free to function. And now what happened? E2F would transcribe gene that are required for cell division. And let's see how cyclin D is activated, how once from one side mitogenic signal is coming, and how from one side pRB is actually inhibiting the cell cycle. So before this particular point of the late G1 phase is called R point, pRB would hold E2F and won't allow E2F to do its function. So this is before the R point. After the R point, there is R point is also known as restriction point. After the R point, inside the cell there would be a lot of cyclin D and CDK complex. So this complex can phosphorylate pRB, and when pRB is phosphorylated, it's no longer functional and it cannot hold E2F, and E2F can go into the nucleus and transcribe other genes that are required for the other stages of the cell cycle. So in the early G1 phase, a lot of mitogenic signal appears in the cell, and from the receptor tyrosine kinase, in a receptor tyrosine kinase mediated way, MAP kinase signaling happens, and the target for these mitogens are actually the cyclin D1. So when cyclin D is produced, CDK and CDK4 and cyclin D complex is activated, and beyond R point, these pRB is inhibited when a cyclin D1 and CDK4 complex phosphorylates pRB, and E2F can perform its function. Now cell cycle can go from late G1 to S and then G2 to M, so cell cycle progression can happen. So in this respect, pRB is important. Now if there is a mutation in pRB, it may lead to cancer, because pRB's main function is to hold the cell cycle progression before the cell reaches the restriction point. After the cell reaches a restriction point, pRB would allow the E2F to do its function and the cell cycle progression would be resumed. But should be a balanced manner how much pRB would be present in a cell. So if pRB amount is less or pRB is mutant, that means pRB is not functional, then pRB can hold E2F, and when we don't want cell division to take place, then even cell division can take place. That happens in the cancer cell. So pRB does not uh, inhibit E2F in the cancer cells. So cancer cells divide and divide in an uncontrolled manner, and thus they proliferate in an uncontrolled manner. That is why pRB is very important. And in cancers, what happens that cyclin D overexpression takes place. That means a lot of mitogenic signals ultimately leads to production of overproduction of cyclin D1. When cyclin D1 is overproduced, this cyclin D1 and CDK4/6 complex can actually phosphorylate pRB, and when pRB is phosphorylated, it's no more functional, and E2F can do its job, and the cell cycle progression can occur. So suppose in a normal cell we don't want the cell to divide at this condition at now, but if the pRB is mutated in that particular cell, so the control over the cell cycle would be lost, and the cell would divide in an uncontrolled manner, which would ultimately lead to tumor formation and thus cancer. So that is why pRB is very important in cell cycle control and regulating the cell cycle control. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe for latest video. Thank you.